So I guess I'll start off with a story like I normally do. It takes place about 8 years ago. I was around Christmas time, and usually what my family would do is we would have all my cousins, all my uncles over for Christmas or Thanksgiving. And it was around Christmas. We had my uncles over, and I was talking to my one uncle about working out because he was working out and training way before me. And I was a couple years into lifting at this point, still fairly new to lifting. And I was kind of just talking to him about like what he does and what he recommends. Geez, I'm knocking my camera all over the place. Um, but essentially, what he told me was that like every so often he would not work out for a week. Like every 6 to 8 weeks, he would just not train and let his body recover. And I'm a couple years into lifting at this point. I'm not the biggest guy. And I'm just kind of like trying to learn everything and do my best. And my natural like gut reaction to what he said was, well, that's bullshit. Like, how am I gonna take a week off from the gym and how am I gonna grow when I'm not in the gym for a week? It's kind of like, it kind of seems counterintuitive. Because, like, as a young guy, you're going into the gym, there's so much content out there that's like, you gotta push it, you gotta do as hard as you gotta go as hard as you can. Um, like, David Goggins' mentality of like, go, 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 you can't stop, you gotta be hard. Um, and that stuff wasn't really in the zeitgeist yet. So I just kind of had this like intrinsic feeling in myself, like, why would I take a week off from the gym ever? So I just didn't really believe him. So I didn't take a day off. Well, I mean, aside from days within my routine for years. So I would jam my routine. I would jam how many days in the gym I was going. Probably like 5 to 6 days a week I was going. And that worked for years because I was, very highly motivated. But sometimes throughout those years and after that, I'd find myself skipping the gym like a good amount. And you might notice this with your routine or how you operate as well. You might be at a point now where you want to go to the gym 6 days a week and you're finding that you only really make it there like three, maybe four on like a good week. So you kind of find yourself skipping a lot of days. And you might be in that same mentality that I had, where you kind of say to yourself, "Nah, this is bullshit. Like I shouldn't. I'm not skipping for a week, because I'm gonna lose progress." Um, and it's only when I kind of looked into why I was feeling so like kind of run down. I was feeling like unmotivated, and this is like the discipline versus motivation war. It kind of ties into that because you know so often nowadays, so many fitness influencers will try to tell you, oh, motivation is wrong, motivation's bad. You can't build a good physique off of motivation. You gotta be disciplined. You gotta go in there when you don't want to all the time, and you gotta lift when you don't want to be there. And that's kind of bullshit. Like, it has some merit to it. Like, there are going to be days when you don't want to go to the gym, and discipline is good for that because you go in, you do the work anyway, you go home. But if you're at a point where you have to use discipline like 5 days a week just to get in there and work out, like you're doing something wrong. I like going to the gym. And back then, in this story that I'm saying, where I found myself skipping 2 or 3 days a week, and I'd never taken a deload week before. Um, you kind of you you kind of don't have a lot of wiggle room to be like, I wonder what the cause is. You know, I was obviously skipping the gym because I was burnt out. Excuse me. That was just my alarm. But it's obvious that I was burnt out at that point. So it's like, what do you do? Well, if you're at the same point, if you're kind of listening to my story of like, I got to be disciplined, I got to go every day, I can't take a rest week because I'm going to lose so much progress. You kind of need to ditch that mentality like I did, because once I actually looked into doing a deload week and doing it properly, and I guess I'll get into kind of how I did that now. What I like to do if I'm doing a deload week, I do this every 8 to 10 weeks. For you, it might be every 6 to 8. Um, but essentially, what I do is I'll take a week. So I go to the gym 6 days a week. I will, for the first half of the week, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I will do half of the sets that I'm going to do and half of the reps that I'm going to do. So you're honestly not going into the gym for that long of a duration, because you're going in there for half the sets and half the reps. And if I have like 3 sets of a certain exercise, I'll just do one set, but do my normal reps to kind of like, I just put it all into one set. So it's like, I don't, I'm not a big fan of like, if I'm going to do half the sets and half the reps, why am I going to rest a minute in between that? It doesn't really make sense. So I'd rather just put 3 sets into one set, like one normal, or so technically it's 2 sets with half the volume in that set, but I just put it all into one set to just kind of make it faster. Second half of the week, you do so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I would do half the sets, half the reps, half the weight. So it's a very, very easy week for me. And you would think that you'd kind of think like, why even go into the gym in the first place? And that's just because it keeps the muscle fibers kind of like used to those kinds of movements, so that when you actually get back to the gym, um, like 70 to 80% of what you'd normally do the next week, your muscle fibers are kind of already like used to engaging in that movement, or like you've kept up with it throughout that week that another person might have just taken off completely. So you come back to the gym, your muscles in your body are more used to doing that movement, or like you've kept that consistency with those movements, and you're not going to struggle as much to get like back to where you were before. So you'll like get back to what you were at faster, which it doesn't take long at all. Like maybe a week, if that, to get back to the weight I was doing before. Um, so I kind of want to go back to like motivation versus discipline. So discipline, you just like jam everything. You don't care about anything. You just kind of do your thing, and you don't care whether or not you enjoy it. But when I actually took the time to take a deload week and kind of go easy on myself for a week, you're in the gym for so little and you're doing so little. Like, of course, you're putting in effort still. You're doing like the mind muscle connection. You're still making sure you're performing like the exercise right. But it's like so little effort compared to what you're used to. So for a normal day at the gym, I might be in there for an hour, maybe an hour 10. But on a deload, I might be in there for like 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm not in there for much time at all. And by the time that week is over, I'm ready to go back full force. Well, not full force, because you don't want to just like half the volume and then you're just trying to hit PRs the next week, because then you might injure yourself. But that kind of goes without saying. Um, so by the time I'm back to the gym, I'm kind of just like ready to get at it again. Um, so if you're, like I said, if you're kind of feeling in a rut and you're skipping a lot of days and you haven't taken a deload, take it. Like, just follow my advice. Take a lighter week. Like, if you don't want to skip the gym for a full week, do what I did. For half of the week, do half the sets, half the reps. For the next half of the week, do half sets, half reps, half of the weight on there. Um, and if you end up doing it and it ends up working out for you, leave a comment just saying like what you did and everything. Maybe you do something a little bit different or you deload differently. If you do, just let me know down in the comments. Um, so I hope this video helps you. Just know that, motivation isn't all that bad. And taking a deload week to kind of like raise your motivation back up and be ready to go back into the gym and like perform the next week, it's not a bad thing. You don't always have to rely on discipline for everything. And just kind of like, it's not cool to hate going into the gym every day. And it's not like cool to hate working on your business or working on your marriage or like these things that like people are saying that you need such discipline for. Yeah, like you want to be disciplined, but you don't want to be miserable every day you do it because then you're not living at that point. So find ways to up your motivation, you know? Make make motivation cool again to a certain degree. But like use motivation and discipline. Don't just go hardcore on the discipline and then hate what you do every day. So like I said, I hope this video helped you. If you want my personal help and you want to talk to me directly, my website link is going to be in the bio or in the description. I don't know why I'm thinking of Instagram. But yeah, you have it in you to be great. Goodbye.